see it used. I think it should be absolutely the last resort. There are other things to do. Very interesting talk at one of the TOFCA meetings about how some farmers are using what they call smother crops. And in fact, planting a cover crop that's so thick, it smothers out a lot of the weeds, a lot of different things. There are a lot of different alternatives, and boy, I sure explore them all before I start spraying Roundup.
I think continuing to recommend Roundup is an extremely lazy position. I think that if you still have to recommend a chemical, you need to spend some time working with research to come up with something that works better. And the only other thing I want to say about Roundup is everybody keeps saying it breaks down when it hits the soil. That information comes from the Monsanto company that John mentioned. The truth is that Roundup, in its form of Roundup, is showing up in the water stream. If that's the case, you know, where is it breaking down? It can't be breaking down if it's getting into the water as Roundup. It should not be on the market.
Could have a lot to do with why a number of the Icelandic countries have banned it from their countries. We could learn a lot from some of the other countries. That has a lot to do with temperature too, but a couple of questions back here. Yes, ma'am.
I heard Dr. Dan Kirby, who's a veterinarian in San Antonio, talking about Roundup on his program. I've heard him talk about it more than once. They have been finding so many tumors in dogs on their organs, liver, kidneys, bladder, and they have done extensive research, and they have found that it was Roundup that was causing tumors in dogs. So if you know anybody that I've gotten to be like a Roundup activist. I go to people's houses, and if I see it, I throw it away.
Okay, in truth, actually the chemical that's causing so many more of the tumors is a different herbicide. It's 2,4-D. Is worse. It's been tied to bladder cancer in dogs, been tied to hemangiosarcoma, and of the horrible herbicides out there, Roundup is probably not as bad as a lot of the others, but the stuff that's going into these weed and feed products, seriously, and I'm not going to ask you to hold up your hands because I don't want to see a bunch of liars out here, but how many of y'all ever read the bags on these products before you put them out? Anybody who has ever read a bag of Scott's, and I know some of my colleagues up here have read these things on the air just to make a point. If you read the stuff that is written on these bags, you would be afraid to put it back into your car to take it to the household hazardous waste days. This stuff is horrible. And literally, there is no such thing as a good chemical herbicide. Roundup may be one of the ones that is less toxic than some of the others, but like Howard says, you need to be looking for other alternatives. Back here?
The question about throwing leaves that had Roundup sprayed on them made me think of all of these foods that are coming in that have been grown in other countries where we don't really quite know what they put on them, and then if we put them on our compost heap, what is the chance that those things will or won't break down? How safe, I guess?
That's a good question. There are 2 or 3 questions up here that relate to that. And the question is basically, we don't know what is on a lot of our foods, our food scraps, or other things that we may be throwing into our compost pile. Are they going to break down? Are they going to go away? I think we'll go down to the other end of the table. Yeah.
Well, one of the big sources of these toxins going into your compost pile is when you go buy cut flowers that are coming in from South America. Grown chemically down there, sprayed, you know, it's a free-for-all for spraying down there, and then they're gassed when they come into this company. And that's really one of the worst things. But we do know that the chemicals are on these products coming in from other countries, but this country too. We can't blame the other countries. It's happening right here. That's why we support our local organic farmers, and you'll be through with that problem. So that's, and Walmart was busted for selling organic produce that wasn't organic, but they had it in their green section. And this was up, I think, in Wisconsin, where they got busted for just putting regular produce out there. And finally, because of the herbicide question a while ago, the weed and feed product, it was brought up a couple times. Well, one of the ingredients in the weed and feed product is something called atrazine. You'll see it on the label. There's a lot of research going on with atrazine. It's been going on for a few years. I know Monsanto's tried to suppress it, but in truth, it has been going on. And what they're finding in the streams where the atrazine is present, and it's very soluble, it'll leave your yard very quickly in the first rain, is that the frogs are hermaphroditing. They're coming out with both sexes. And so we haven't had it long enough to be finding out about our children, but they're in this lineup of being tested on with new products. I would think this is one of the worst things. And then this business of the dogs and the diseases that are at an all-time high that didn't used to exist this way. When you use that weed and feed out there, and reading the label was important because on TV you see the guy with his children behind him going by a tree. Atrazine doesn't know your tree from your dandelions. And over the years, you'll begin to see the tree is sick. You're calling in these arborists to fix it. And the truth is, you've been putting atrazine around some of these plants. And the business about the dog is, my cat, my dog, they love the fiber from the lawn. And so that atrazine is up in that grass. And they're eating this as a source of fiber very frequently. And they don't wear shoes when they go outside. And so they absorb it through their feet on the moist grass. This is another one of these sources of major problems, and it's atrazine.
I just happened to go this week. I didn't get to do it on my show because I ended up having a lot of people come in. I went shopping this weekend in San Antonio this past week. I examined 37 cans from a very major, I gotta be careful here, natural food store. One of them that amazed me was California broccoli, carrots, and peas. Read the back of the can. Made in China. Product of China. It says it right on the front, full size. California style.
Style.
Cranberries, peas, a number of their products that they give you as fish, all coming from China right now, folks. Now, I'm not anti-Chinese. Hope I'm not in trouble here. But the study was from New York Times. That's what got me interested in it. They actually went in and did what they had, what I wanted to go do here. They did in New York. Then they sent their people, we can't quite afford this at KTSA yet, they sent people to China to verify who the organic certifiers there were. There aren't any. They couldn't find the company. It doesn't exist. So when you start buying this stuff that's coming from these other countries, and I love a lot of countries, don't get me wrong, if you think you're getting organic just because it says so, somebody is misleading you. You're going to see this thing open up a can of broccoli. How can you say California and then read it in the little tiniest print? I don't know how big 2-point print is, but it says product of China, product of China, product of China. Olive oil from China. The brand, one of their house brands, I don't know if they bring any of it from America. And this happens to be a company that is promoting buy local, buy organic. We're going to support you here in Texas. Go Texan. And I guess I didn't give a number because I didn't divide it. 60% or 70% of everything I picked up was a product of China or some other place, but mostly China. And not a single one of those cans even informs you of that unless you've got the, plus 350 spectacles. It is amazing. If you don't believe the next time you walk in, read yourself some cans before you buy them.
Yes, sir.
I've got a personal experience with Roundup. My neighbor had this beautiful post oak tree. It was 50 feet tall, probably 40 feet across. It gave my backyard a ton of shade. And it was right on his fence line, and he had some weeds along the fence he didn't want to have to deal with. So he mixed up his Roundup, and I have no idea how he mixed it, and he sprayed it, the weeds. Within a week, that post oak started dying. Within a week after that, it was completely dead. And I talked to Mark Peterson, who was with the Forestry Service at the time, and I asked him, how did this happen? Because Roundup has to go on the leaves. You can pour it on roots, it doesn't kill anything. That's not true. That's what they tell you.
No, I can tell you.
No, but that's...
I have a nursery. I lost $150,000 worth of plants due to drift from Roundup. I talked to Monsanto people about Roundup. I talked to Texas weed specialist who wrote a PhD on Roundup.
I'm getting to this.
Sir.
Nobody in this audience and nobody in the state can tell you about Roundup.
Right, but what happened, what was explained to me, is my neighbor had done it in the heat of the afternoon, and it vaporized and went up and got the leaves of the tree, and that's